Good morning. Korea's top economic policymaker says the projected annual growth for 2015 is attainable and the country is not heading towards deflation. Jordan carries out its first airstrikes on Islamic State targets after its pilot's death. The king has vowed to step up the fight against IS. They learn to sing, dance, rap, and move, but can they learn the swag and make it their own? Talent grooming at professional K-pop academies. Walk down memory lane in the Seongdong-gu district and enjoy an experience with hearty, meaty dishes with Joe McPherson on Korea Today, Friday, February 6th, 2015.
From Arirang News, this is Korea Today.
Thank you for tuning in. You're watching Korea Today on a Friday morning. I'm Kim Min-jung with Ju and Kim Young.
Good morning. Seoul National University has opened a new library yesterday. And what's special about this library is that it has been built with donations from alumni, faculty members, and citizens, and has been named after Kwanjeong Educational Foundation, founded by Mr. Lee Jong-hwan, who donated more than 60 billion won, or $55 million, for this library.
And quite a list of alumni that they do actually have. Now, it features 8 floors of reading rooms, study rooms, as well as multimedia plaza, a faculty room, as well as conference rooms. And there's a lot more than meets the eye in this, because when you actually look at the bookshelves, you'll notice that there are wooden panels and the names of the donors have been inscribed into this.
That's right.
Paying due credit to its alumni.
And together with the new library, together with the main library, this new library and these two libraries became the biggest college library in Korea, covering some 57,000 square meters. But bad news here, if you're not a student at Seoul National University or an alumni, no access.
Well, there's
I didn't know that.
That's a great reason to go back to school there. Are we in?
Become the brightest in the country, right? All right, well, here's a check of the headlines on this Friday morning. Korea's top economic policymaker says the Korean economy is expected to reach the projected 3.8% annual growth in 2015 if favorable conditions such as low crude prices, low interest rates, and the government's expansionary policies are factored in. Seoul's Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan also told lawmakers at the National Assembly on Thursday that Korea is not facing deflation, adding that consumer prices for the past 3 years have been rising steadily in the mid-1% range. He also weighed in on the current debate in the political circle about raising taxes to fund welfare and social security, saying doing so without public consensus would create confusion and conflict. On the country's growing household debt, Minister Choi said the government is well aware of risks stemming from such factors and will work to well manage them while trying to turn the economy around.
Following the first time a high-ranking Chinese official expressed concern over the possible deployment of an advanced defense missile battery in South Korea by the U.S., Seoul on Thursday reaffirmed there has not been any official request from Washington. The Terminal High-Altitude Area Defense Battery, known as THAAD, is designed to shoot down short, medium, and intermediate-range ballistic missiles at higher altitude in their terminal phase using a hit-to-kill method. Now, Seoul's foreign ministry also said no consultations have taken place on the matter so far. The ministry also stressed that key U.S. officials, including Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel and top U.S. envoy to Seoul, Mark Lippert, confirmed the U.S. is undecided on whether to pursue the issue in the South. China and Russia view the THAAD deployment to South Korea as a potential threat to their security, while critics say it is Washington's attempt to get Seoul to join its broader air shield system, which could spark tensions in the region.
Seoul's transport ministry has rejected a proposal by Uber, the global rideshare company, to register its vehicles, saying the service that connects drivers with customers using smartphones is illegal in Korea. The Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport said in a statement Thursday that Uber services would go against the government's plan to reduce the number of local taxis, saying it would intensify competition and threaten the livelihood of existing cab drivers. The ministry vowed to maintain its position against operation of the company's services and continue to work with the Seoul city government to crack down on Uber drivers. This response comes a day after a senior executive from the rideshare company held a press conference in Seoul proposing a system that would allow registration and monitoring of its drivers.
The clock is ticking for the Korean military to replace its aging fleet of fighter jets that have reached or surpassed their lifespan. Now, the Korean government has signed a deal with an American company to import dozens of fighter jets, but is also carrying out a separate project to build its own models. It's called the KFX project. And for more details, we're now joined by Kim Hyun-bin here in the studio. Good morning, Hyun-bin.
Good morning, Jinju. Quite a few number of Korean fighter jets have been in operations for over 40 years. Now, you do have to keep in mind that an average lifespan of a fighter jet is around 40, so they do need to get replaced. Now, the Korea fighter jet program aims to do so by developing mid-sized fighter jets to fill the gap with newer and advanced technologies. So let's take a closer look.
South Korea's Air Force has around 400 jets in service, but roughly half of them are antiquated jets, such as the F4 and F5. These days, 4th and 5th generation fighters are the mainstay globally, but Korea is lagging behind with mostly 3rd generation jets. The Korean Fighter Jet Project, or KFX, will enable us to replace those with 4.5 generation jets.
Korea has set aside roughly $17 billion for a project to develop and mass-produce 120 4.5 generation fighter jets that will replace the old F4s and F5s. The KFX jets are scheduled to be integrated into the Air Force in 2025. On top of that, Korea recently signed a roughly $7 billion deal with Lockheed Martin for 45th generation F-35 stealth fighters, though there are some concerns.
Lockheed Martin's F-35 has been in development for over a decade, but they are still conducting test flights. Considering this situation, even if we started this project right now, it'd be hard to meet the deadline of 2025.
Some experts worry that a delay like that could push Korea's already old fighter jet fleet to the limit. South Korea's defense ministry says it's looking into other options, such as enhancing the performance of the current KF-16 fleet and tanker aircraft, to try and ensure a smooth transition to the newer generation of jets if the KFX project is delayed. The KFX, however, will not be Korea's first homegrown fighter jet. The F-850, which finished development in 2011, was integrated into the Air Force last October. That jet has already caught the eye of international buyers. Korea has exported more than 50 of them to Iraq, Indonesia, and the Philippines. Seoul plans to sell 24 F-850s to Peru this year in a deal worth some $2 billion. But will the KFX have a similar impact overseas?
The fighter jet life cycle for many countries is similar, so experts predict that demand for mid-sized fighter jets in 2030 will drastically increase to around 3,300 units. I believe we can get 10% of the pie, or 330 units. And after 250 units, we will break even, so the market looks profitable.
So once these fighter jets are developed, they will replace the old ones, and I guess that it will change Korea's combat structure somewhat. What are some of the expected effects?
Well, I talked to some analysts, and they said there will be some changes in the combat structure to a certain degree, and they did pinpoint that this is the most realistic option for Korea. Now, in an ideal world, Korea would love to buy just the highest tier fighter jets, but that's out of the question. So let's take a look at what changes will come about in the near future. Now, as you can see, the new Lockheed Martin F-35s will be in the high tier, which is scheduled for deployment in Korea by the early 2020s. Now, the new KFX project will replace the current middle tier jets. Now, Korea's first domestically produced fighter jet, the F-850, with its strong firepower and gadgetry, will take the place of the F-5s. Like most defense-related hardware, all these jets have limited lifetimes. After, say, 10 to 20 years, a fighter jet that was in the top tier will drop down into the middle or lower tier. So countries are constantly on the lookout for the latest jets and other military equipment.
So, Hyun-bin, the question is, why is Korea willing to develop these jets, go through the hassle of developing these jets if it costs less to import those from other countries?
Well, you're right. It's around 1/3 of the price if you purchase it overseas. But experts say a country that develops its own fighter jet will see greater benefits in the long run. And as I mentioned earlier, a fighter jet's lifespan is around 40 years. So if you buy the planes, it will encounter some problems along the way. And on average, it takes around 3 months to get them fixed. And the maintenance fees are out through the roof. But by having the technology, the country saves on maintenance fees and time and can even make some money by exporting the jets overseas.
So in the long run, it will reduce cost and provide perhaps more business opportunities for the Korean military.
Sure thing.
All right. Thank you, Hyun-bin, for that report this morning.
Thank you.
Good Friday morning. It's time to run through the front pages of your newspapers. Now, we start in Washington, D.C. The Dalai Lama appeared at the National Prayer Breakfast Thursday, where U.S. President Barack Obama delivered an address about religious freedom. Let's begin with this news with an image on 중앙일보 of the two figures here. And the picture is called "Obama and Dalai Lama Meet Just a Few Meters Apart." So when the Dalai Lama was recognized at the 63rd Annual National Prayer Breakfast, President Obama could be seen bowing, and as you can see here, he placed his palms together in a gesture of greeting. Now, Obama called the Dalai Lama a good friend and an inspiration for freedom. But the two did not meet directly, as they were seated a short distance away from each other, likely a precaution taken considering China. Now, coming to Korea now, we'll go ahead and look at this local headline. It says, revised proposal on public servant pension plans to halt provision after surpassing certain income level. The government yesterday announced the first draft of its public officials pension reform plan in response to criticism over the disparity in benefits between retired bureaucrats and those subscribed to the regular national pension scheme. Now, the Ministry of Personnel Management announced its proposal at the National Assembly, calling to lower the percentage of monthly payouts to civil servants currently in office from 1.9 to 1.5% of their average monthly income after they retire. Meanwhile, as noted in the headline, the plan also contains a clause calling to suspend pension payouts for retired civil servants who enter high-level income brackets. Now, moving on to a side headline on 동아일보, and this one is regarding a gold crown coming from the Silla dynasty, and the header says, golden crown from Silla dynasty damaged during Japanese colonial era. We are talking about this crown here, the part in the middle that was excavated from a royal tomb called Seobongchong from the Silla dynasty. It turns out that the crown was severely damaged during the Japanese colonial era, although it was originally discovered completely intact back in 1926. Now, this is the middle part of the picture of it in 1926 compared to what it looks like in 2014 today. And the golden threaded embroidery part has been placed differently, with 4 of the original jade ornaments having disappeared as well. Now, this is the first time that a golden crown from the Silla dynasty is known to have been disfigured during Japan's colonial rule. And we'll go ahead and skip right on to our economic daily here, the Mail business paper, and the headline says KOSDAQ's Song of Revival. So Korea's secondary board seems to be showing signs of resurgence here. If we go ahead and look at the sub-headlines, as yesterday it broke through the 600 mark for the first time since the 2008 financial crisis. Now, this came as investors flocked to the KOSDAQ market, with expectations running high that its listed companies would report better earnings and stand to benefit from recent policies by the government regarding the fintech sector, as well as its creative economy initiatives. So as you can see here, the index closed at 600.81, which is up by 2.58 points, or 0.43% from the previous day. And that was a look at our local headlines this Friday. Now more on the stock numbers from Thursday.
Well, today is Friday, and the first week of February is now gone already.
Right. Yep, is it the first Friday of February? It sure is, right? So we'll get a check on the weather and see how your weekend is going to be as well, with a check on the weather with Chun Song-cho, who joins us. Good morning, Song-cho.
Good morning to you, Song-cho.
Good morning, guys. On yesterday's morning commute, we had bad air quality with high levels of fine dust in the air to worry about. And this morning, it's freezing weather that's chilling the entire nation. So those of you still home, getting ready to go outside, I say put an extra layer of clothes on your way out this morning. You're going to thank me later. It feels colder than yesterday, with temperatures hovering around 4 degrees Celsius below freezing. However, things will warm up quickly by the afternoon as mercury levels will rise up to 6 degrees here in Seoul. This is because the weather is mainly driven by a high-pressure system over northern China, so we don't have many clouds, adding more layers between the ground and the sun. This allows heat to enter and exit our atmosphere more easily and cause fluctuating temperatures. A big temperature gap between the highs and lows throughout the day can weaken your immune system and make you more susceptible to catching a cold. So on days like today, you gotta remember to wash your hands as frequently as possible and always keep yourselves warm. And with that, let's take a closer look at today's temperature readings around the nation. Look at the 12-degree temperature difference for Daejeon. A nice and warm afternoon with plenty of sunshine is in store for the entire country, with midday highs ranging from 6 to 10 degrees Celsius. This is all for me with the weather forecast, and I'll see you again back to show you later to show you where spring is in full bloom. Back to the studio.
Jordan's outrage over the killing of one of its pilots and the plane crash in Taiwan are the stories on the international front that we're following at this hour. We'll connect with our Eunice Kim joining us from the news center. Good morning to you, Eunice.
Good morning.
Now let's begin with the airstrikes that Jordan has launched against the Islamic State group. What do we know?
Well, according to the Jordanian security sources and its military, they targeted IS ammunition depots and training camps near the IS stronghold of Raqqa in Syria. And Jordanian military members are said to have written on the missiles themselves things like "Islam has no relation to you," Daesh, that's another name commonly used for IS in the Middle East, and also "we are beating them" before those missiles were shot off. You're seeing there video aired on Jordan State TV of the strikes. Iraqi media is reporting that 55 militants were killed, including a senior IS commander. Now, Jordan's King Abdullah was in the hometown of the deceased pilot, Lieutenant Moath al-Qasasbeh. The monarch pointed to the skies as the fighter jets flew over the village of Aya on their return home. The father of al-Qasasbeh told CNN that King Abdullah had given him his word that Jordan would avenge his son's death and that 30 Jordanian fighter jets participated in those strikes. An army statement said the airstrikes were just the beginning of its severe response.
Now, onto that plane crash in Taiwan. Recovery efforts are ongoing as we speak, and we're getting new information about the men who were in the cockpit of the TransAsia plane when it went down.
That's right. Unfortunately, the pilot and the co-pilot were confirmed to be among the deceased early yesterday, a fact that the family of the pilot Liao Qian-sung had to learn from television reports. Now, at the scene of the crash, Keelung River in Taipei, recovery teams did manage to clear out the site on Thursday. Rescuers transported the salvaged wreckage of the TransAsia Airways plane onto awaiting trucks to be taken to the Taiwan Aviation Safety Council for further investigation. One more body was recovered, bringing the current death toll to 32. Divers will return to the river to try to locate the 11 people still unaccounted for. Now, as investigators download the contents of the recovered black boxes and zone in on the cause of this crash, it has come to light that the pilot's quick thinking likely averted heavier damage when they made a last-minute decision to pull the aircraft away from buildings and the densely populated areas, narrowly avoiding that highway that we showed you on that dashcam video yesterday and making it into the water. So certainly, Minjung, it could have been a much worse story, as bad as it is now.
Right, an amazing story of bravery from the pilots. Thank you so much, Eunice.
Sure thing.
Now stay with us on Korea Today, especially if you're feeling a little nostalgic. We're going to check out one of the places that offer a chance to walk down memory lane, and that is the Seongdong-gu district. It's not just the ambiance, but the food that you'll love as well. Joe McPherson checks it out for us, so do stay with us. Now, February is graduation season in Korea for schools nationwide.
That's right. I was driving down right after work down that hill, and there is that high school that's right next to the station.
And they sell bouquets
of
flowers,
so
right?
It is graduation season. And for one middle and high school's graduation ceremony yesterday, they invited some special guests from the U.S. Now, our Seong Mi-so랑 joins us to tell us a bit more about that. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So 3 Korean War veterans and founders of the school. They were part of the U.S. Army's 40th Infantry Division, which had built the school, the Pocheon Kwanin Middle and High School, back in the day during reconstructive efforts after the Korean War. 60 years on, the school has not forgotten its roots, and it invited the veterans to their graduation ceremony as a sign of gratitude. In response, the veterans wished the 50 graduating students all the best and encouraged them to be leaders for Korea's future.
And it had to be a very memorable experience for the students to find the founder.
Exactly, coming full circle.
They look so proud too. Look at their faces.
And not just these veterans, but they had several 대선배s, so from the graduating class of 1950s. Come as well. So.
It has to be a special experience for them as well to see how the school has grown and the students that they're actually nurturing now.
Definitely, definitely. Now, meanwhile, Korea's creative content agency recently signed a memorandum of understanding with Korea's largest web portal, Naver, to create and distribute web dramas. Now, Korea's media content experts say that the next big genre in Korea will be these web dramas, which are short online dramas about 5 to 10 minutes long per episode. And together with webtoons and 60-second movies, web dramas are part of the so-called snack culture. Have you guys heard of the term? Snack culture refers to content being provided in bite-sized pieces so that they can be accessed on the go without needing too much attention.
The people who come up with these phrases, coin these terms, are quite
creative themselves.
Genius.
Now, several weeks ago, we mentioned Gyeongbokgung Palace and nighttime admissions. Well, this year's first round of nighttime admissions begin next week, but tickets are very, very hard to come by. So pre-sale tickets went on sale this past Wednesday, but they sold out within 10 minutes. So desperate seekers are turning to illegal private resellers. The going rate is around $30 US, 10 times the original price, but demand is still very high. But a word of warning though, they will check your ID at the door to see if it matches the original ticket buyer. So unless you're going with the reseller, slim chance of that, you will be refused. Okay, so this obviously is in efforts not to make it so that it's more difficult for people to go, but to root out scalping, which is illegal. But the good news though is that for foreign nationals, both online and pre-order sales and on-site tickets are still available. And for Koreans as well, they do reserve 50 tickets every day for on-site sales. So you can arrive really, really early, probably several hours in advance, and try your luck.
Okay, or get there in the morning, right?
Yeah, for the nighttime admissions.
Earlier the better, right?
Yeah,
all right, thank you so much, Mi-so랑.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. All right, still ahead on Korea Today. We're pretty much very well aware that they do have star nurturing programs at entertainment agencies, but this time it is spreading to entertainment institutions. And to see what options are there, coming up with Denny Hong later on K Entertainment.
And TGI Friday, everyone, as we kick things off with the Korean national football team as head coach Uli Stillege's plan for the future were revealed. And as simple as it looks, there's still a lot of work to be done. Well, now that his first task with the Asian Cup is over with, his next tasks are the two A matches set to take place in March, followed by the World Cup qualifiers, which will begin in June. And from there, his biggest task is qualifying for the 2018 Russia World Cup and showing what he's capable of doing with the team in Russia. Now, meanwhile, the 61-year-old has stated that his final plan is to take them as far as they can in the World Cup and have them ranked in the top 30 in the FIFA ranking. Now, we can all bet that Son Heung-min will be a huge part of manager Uli Stillege's roadmap to 2018, but for now, his goal is his season with Bayer Leverkusen. Now, a day after Ki Sung-young left for England, Son Heung-min left for Germany on Thursday and held a brief press conference at the Incheon International Airport. Now, there he talked about how he still feels a disappointment of coming so close to winning the Asian Cup trophy, but at the same time, he did sound pretty optimistic, adding that he's now going to focus on his season with Bayer Leverkusen as he hopes to get them into fourth place this season in order to qualify for next year's Champions League. Now, staying with football, this time over to the Korean Olympic football team, where head coach Lee Kwang-jung has resigned from his post after learning that he's suffering from leukemia. Now, the 51-year-old head coach who led the Asian Games team to a gold medal last year returned to Korea a week after flying over to Thailand for the U22 Kings Cup. And tests show that he is currently suffering from leukemia and has unfortunately resigned from his managerial position, despite recently signing an extension to take over the football team for the 2016 Rio Summer Games. Meanwhile, taking over his position will be the national team's assistant coach, Shin Tae-yong. Now, the weekend's almost here, which means for many of us, it's time to plan what we're going to do this weekend, right? Well, for the Korean golfers in the LPGA, their plan is to win the 2015 Pure Silk Bahamas LPGA Classic. Now, with the Koreans dominating the season's first tournament last week, including Chen Ayan, who took home the top prize, they're now looking for win number 2 in the new season. Now, among them is Park In-bi, who looked to take back her #1 ranking from teenage sensation Lydia Ko, who became the youngest #1 ranked golfer in history earlier this week. Now, at the same time, all eyes will be also on Chang Han-ah, who finished tied for second last week in her LPGA debut. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
So temperatures are getting warmer and daytime is getting longer, and spring is just around the corner. And what pops up in my head when I think about spring?
Spring break.
No, it's flowers.
Oh, so typical. I look at you, I think of flower.
And you too.
I look at you two and I think of flowers.
Oh, thank you.
All right, our Chun Sung-cho joins us from a flower market in Seoul. Let's go over to her right now. Good morning to you again.
Hi guys again. How do you like my flowers on my head? Okay, so as I've been talking about it for the past couple of days, last Wednesday was Ep762 among the 24 seasonal divisions here in Korea, which indicates the beginning of spring. But like I said earlier, it's -4 degrees Celsius outside right now here in Seoul. A little bit too freezing to call it spring weather. And although it will take another month or so for the weather to really warm up and spring flowers to bloom around the city, you can come over here to Yangjae Flower Market Center and get an early taste of the upcoming season. So there's rows and rows of little stalls, one after another here. And oh my God, it's really, really gorgeous here. As you can see, it's kind of already quite busy here despite the early hours. But look at these vibrant colors, from red to yellow to red and purple. And they're all different kinds of flowers too. Here you see all roses, and then there you see some baby's breath, freesia and hydrangea as well. And not to mention the divinely sweet fragrance filling the air. This is what heaven would smell like, I imagine. All right, so if you're looking for anything that's related to gardening, flowers, and plants, this is the place to be. This center, opened in 1991, is Korea's largest and oldest flower market to this day. And obviously today we can only show you a very small section of the entire market, but as you can see, there are all different kinds of flowers and plants being sold here. And the sellers here also say that now is the busiest season because around this time is when schools in Korea start holding graduation ceremonies. And of course, you can't celebrate without flowers, right? So flowers are in high demand these days. And since I'm here today, I want to buy some for my own. But since there's such a wide variety, I don't know which one to pick. So I'm going to ask the florist over here to ask what kind of flowers is in most demand these days. 안녕하세요.
네, 안녕하세요.
그럼 요즘 어떤 꽃이 제일 많이 팔리나요?
네, 지금 졸업 시즌이라 튤립, 프리지아, 장미가 제일 잘 나가는데 현재는 이런 헤라 이런 장미가 굉장히 핑크가 아주 고운 색깔이라 아주 잘 나가고 있습니다.
아, 그렇구나.
예, 예.
네, so he says that yeah, because it's graduation season, freesia, tulips, and roses are the most popular, especially like this kind of color. It's gorgeous. It's like light pink. Wow, it's really pretty. And, ooh, what is this? 와, 너무 이뻐요.
네, 이뻐요.
네.
제가 오늘 인터뷰에서 준비해서 하나 선물로 드리려고 준비했습니다.
아, 진짜요?
네.
감사합니다. Okay.
네.
So very generously he prepared this as a gift for me and Korea today. 정말 감사합니다.
네, 감사합니다. 네.
Thank you very much. Oh my God, aren't these flowers really gorgeous? I can't wait for to see how these flowers will go along with my room later on. Or maybe I can just put it in right in the middle of the living room to add more colors and life to the entire house. What do you think? But whichever way, I know that it will make waiting for spring a little sweeter and more pleasurable. This is Wincheon Seongchu, Korea Today.
So, are those flowers for us or for herself?
It's
right?
for her living room, obviously. She lied to us, saying that it was for her and Korea today. Well, anyhow, joining us today is the flower of K Entertainment.
Is he? I have to disagree.
I'm a wilting flower.
A very big flower.
A very big one. I'm a cactus, right? You know, so now this week we're going to be talking a little bit about, well, the difficulty. Now, it's kind of established already that if you are going to debut as a performer, a singer here in Korea, debut training time, 7 years-ish maximum. It can take anywhere from 1 to 7 years for all the training to happen. But how do you get that first step? How do you actually get into the agency first? Now, we're seeing a new trend now. We're actually having a lot of private academies open up for training prospective talents to get into the industry. And so let's take a look at that. Korean Idol stars have well established themselves across the global stage, garnering fans in Asia, the Americas, and in Europe. And these celebrities themselves are becoming leading brands and names for the country, and money moves with them too. Behind the phenomenal growth of these talents is dedicated training and cultivation of them. The first stage you need to get through to become an Idol star is the auditions.
Aww.
And this is when they're like in elementary school.
Now, many of the Idol stars we're already familiar with had to go through cutthroat auditions held by major entertainment agencies or the more public recruitment method, reality competitions on TV. But these days, more opportunities to audition for entertainment agencies are surfacing. Recruiters from such agencies are seeking out large-scale private academies that groom talent and picking out prospective trainees.
저는 초등학교 6학년 때부터 지금까지 7년, 8년 정도의 꿈을 이어가고 있는데요.
한 30번째쯤 되는 것 같은데 꼭 붙고 싶어요. 열심히 해서.
If you were handpicked here, it gives you the chance to become a trainee and is considered an invaluable opportunity requiring much preparation to ensure the best performance possible. Auditions open to the public by large agencies only come about a handful of times a year, but these closed auditions take place every week. Because those trying out come in smaller numbers, it's also a chance to get more detailed feedback.
노래하는 센스나 여러 가지 뭐 밸런스적인 거 그런 게 많이 부족하니까 그런 거 좀 채우셔야 될 것 같고요. 그렇습니다.
저가 더 연습을 해야겠다고 생각도 들고 더 열심히 해야 될 것 같아요.
Getting through the audition is just the beginning. Once you become a trainee at an agency, the long wait in training requiring anywhere between 6 months to 7 years begins. And to get a closer look at what goes on behind the scenes during that time, we met with the girl group that newly debuted, G-Friend.
안녕하세요, 여자친구입니다. 열심히 하겠습니다. 잘 부탁드립니다.
Wow. Now, it's only been a month since they debuted, but the group has been considered by many here and abroad as one of the names to look out for in 2015. But the members explained there was a lot of difficult times leading up to this moment.
그 연습생 당시에 일정들이 어떻게 됐었어요?
14시간, 15시간, 14시간, 15시간. 진짜 감옥에 있는 것 같아요.
하루 종일 연습실에서만 있으니까 뭔가 밖에 그냥 산책하러 나가도 아 진짜 너무 좋다고.
바깥 공기 막 이러면서 일부러 바깥에 있는 외부 화장실을 사용하기도 했어요. 그런 시간이 있었기에 지금 저희가 더 빛나게 할 수 있지 않나 싶어요.
The time it takes in training is generally getting longer, which is why the performances we see on stage come with a greater degree of sophistication.
Before, you could debut just by having a unique image, but now there are so many talented people that the bar has been raised. So there are many more procedures of verification, and training is more systematic. So we see better singers with greater talent on stage.
This private academy is the first gate to becoming an idol star. A total of 400 students come here to learn how to sing, dance, and even know what style to carry as prospective celebrities. We're still in the morning hours, but there is a lot of anticipation in the air today. And this is because today the top 30 at this institute are chosen, and their names are made public.
순위가 같이 나오고 이러면은 약간 경쟁심에 더 다음에는 아 내가 순위가 많이 떨어졌구나 이렇게 비교하면서 더 열심히 하게 되는 것 같아요.
Now this is important because those within the high ranks are given an additional opportunity to get into entertainment agencies.
Here, we'll look for more ways like holding auditions to help students understand that if they are in the top ranks here, they will encounter more openings that will get them into the industry.
These private academies take in students dreaming of becoming the next great K-pop star, and with them they carry out systematic and well-structured classes. Some of the top instructors offer detailed lessons in singing, dancing, and studies in music. They're also provided with classes on how to express emotions on stage, look at the camera, and work together with others. And these are all necessary requirements for idol groups.
때 시선을 살짝 다운 가사에 막 I can't 아니면 뭐
안녕하세요. 중국에서 온 소미아입니다.
Thanks to word of mouth about these classes, foreigners looking to debut in Korea also seek them out.
I love K-pop so much, so I come to Korea and I want to be a singer. I love Hyolyn so much. I want to be a singer like Hyolyn.
Outside of class, the students are also assigned to a homeroom teacher who conducts regular level tests. The students' progress is managed according to well-kept data. Here they are checked for their breathing, ability to reach high notes, weight, and daily habits. Not one element goes unaccounted for.
Weight? As in like how much they weigh?
Yep.
Yep. I'll fail.
What kind of results can this academy produce? And is it worth the time and money? Now, we got to speak with a member of Group Code V who graduated from this institute and debuted in Japan successfully.
제가 이제 프로의 세계에 이제 들어와서 느낀 게 많은데 학원에서든 어디든 되게 배우는 단계에서는 그 순간만큼은 정말 집중해서 자기 공부라고 생각을 하고 배워진다면 나중에 이렇게 저처럼 배워뒀던 여러 가지를 습득했던 거를 무대 위에서 직접 이렇게 사용해 보면서 더 늘어갈 수 있는 발판이 되기 때문에 나중에 좋은 결과가 꼭 있을 거라고 생각을 합니다.
There is a know-how in the K-pop industry now that has been built up for over a decade. And this is how we mostly know what the equation of success is when it comes to singers. They not only have to have the basics of being good at singing and dancing, but in terms of their personalities and use of language, they need to have various skills and knowledge. We even see other countries send their trainees over to Korea before they debut so that they can go through the grooming process here and then return.
It's the painstaking hours of training and the fierce competition that idol stars face before they make it on stage that gives them a competitive edge on the global market. More talent continues to be groomed behind the scenes as they get ready to make their big break.
You look at these K-pop stars and you think these guys are born a star, but really, more often than not, they are groomed into stars. And these...
Well, there's natural talent, and then there's, of course, those that have to work harder for it, of course, too.
Right, a bit rougher on the edges, so they need to be a little bit, I guess, just
groomed.
Refined, like groomed.
Indeed.
Now,
In the rough
then
kind of thing.
there is that demand, of course.
Yes, 2013 itself, the number of prospective people that wanted to become K-pop singers reached past 1 million, and even the academy we visited, now they have 600 people there, but only the top 30 really get that additional opportunity to go into the agencies and do the audition process there. So it is still very cutthroat when it comes to even in these agencies themselves. And there's about 5 to 6 of these larger talent agencies, training academies in Seoul.
It's like these are academies that they go to so they can get that audition.
The audition.
I know.
And then they have to go through more training in the
through.
entertainment agency and then record and debut and then fight against other singers to get up onto the top of the charts. That's
wow. There's so many things that could happen within every single one of these stages. But that first step definitely is important.
Wow.
I know. Getting into one of those entertainment agencies doesn't guarantee their debut these days. But what really surprised me was a student from China coming from other countries to be trained to actually audition for these entertainment agencies.
Well, in this case, Korea, obviously K-pop with, its, progress throughout the global stage, there has been a lot of interest in it and how we are doing it. And so the system is in place here. There are still, of course, singing classes and acting classes all around the world, but I think the way that the Korean system is organized, I think the foreign market wants to see how that's done and see what they can glean from it. And I guess a very good example would be Julian Trono. He's from the Philippines. He started off as a child actor, and for him, basically, he now is one of the most famous celebrities in television and the film industry over in the Philippines, and he's looking to debut as a singer. He's actually a pretty well-known choreographer, and he's studying in Korea as well as his country. He has high expectations for his first single because of his already existing popularity, which is interesting because he has decided to have all of his training conducted here in Korea. Now, he's here to film his music video, do some promotion, and also take part in a flash mob with his fans. And just yesterday, we actually got to meet with him and talk about what his plans are, for his debut. That's his flash mob video.
Korean style with the Korean system, they're more of smooth. They need to more stiff, very strict when it comes to steps. Of course, when it comes to singing, they're very more practical. So there's a lot of differences between the two of Philippine and Korean. There's a lot, but all I can say is Korean system is very, very unique. Yeah.
Yeah, as you mentioned, the system, it's different because, again, he's not trying to debut necessarily here, right? He's studying here so he can take the tools that he learned and then, of course, debut as a singer, in the Philippines itself. Now, he does have a head up because, of course, he's already established as a television and film personality, right? But his album is supposed to be released not only in the Philippines but also worldwide, so we'll have to see how much of the K-pop influence we'll see on his album.
All right. Thank you so much, Danny.
No problem.
Thank you.
Because of you, because of our destiny, 누가 더 아파? 지금 난 행복한 나. 그곳 따뜻한 사랑을 주었어. 제발 그 앞에서 울지 마. 무슨 말만 하면 울잖아. 말 한마디에 아무 말도 못하면서
There's a movie that's really popular and it's topping the box office charts. I think as of last week it was #2. You saw the movie Ode to My Father, right?
I cried my eyes out.
And
yes.
apparently it is a tearjerker. My father called me from the States. I've said this before, Johnny, you must watch this film. But I still have not seen it. I'm sorry, Dad. But what the film is doing is it's bringing nostalgia back, and there's an area that represents that, and Joe McPherson actually had a chance to go there. Good morning, Joe.
Good morning. Yes, we're going to take a trip down memory lane. We're going to go to the Seongdong-gu district. And it may look a little antiquated, but it has a lot of great eats, really classic eats. Now, 50 years ago, that housed the slaughterhouses for the city, and now it's the center of meat distribution for the city, which means meat markets, gogi, which means meat restaurants.
Gogi.
Exactly. So even though it's a little gritty, I personally prefer things a little gritty. Yeah. And so to me, that usually means good eating, which means great beef, great pork, even great innard meats if you're into that, which I am. Yep. So let's take a closer look. With movies taking place in the 50s and 60s doing very well in the box office, people are really interested in how life was like back in the old days. Now, there's an area where you can actually step back in time, and there's also a lot to eat and enjoy, and that is the Seongdong-gu district. And that's where we're going to head up to today. The first place on the list is the neighborhood Majangdong. It got its name for having stables in the Joseon dynasty where they raised horses. Their meat market here has a half-century of history and is really famous. Slaughterhouses started to open shop in the 60s, and the meat market sprung up following that, continuing on even after the slaughterhouses closed. Now the meat market accounts for 70% of the meat distributed in the greater area of Seoul. The prices for top-notch meat are affordable, giving the market its fame and bringing in 2 million visitors a year. It has long since established itself as a landmark in Seongdong-gu. Now we're looking around, it's time to check out Hanu, or Korean beef. Around the market, there are quite a few restaurants that have butchers on the side where you can pick your cut and have it cooked right on the spot with a simple fee for a table setup. If you're looking for a tender cut, go for beef tenderloin, which is low in fat and a little more palatable. If you want a juicy cut, try out sachisal or the chuck flat. And if you want a little fun of chewing, you should get some charobagi or shaved beef brisket, known for the little strips of fat running along the meat.
It's a little chewy, has a crispy edge to it, very beefy flavor.
There's also yuke, or Korean beef tartare, that they mix up for you on the spot. Add some salt, sesame oil, and minced garlic to thin strips of udunsal, or rump steak, and pear slices. And you can enjoy the fresh flavor and texture of the meat. This is a small area recreated into a panjacheon, or shantytown, that used to be more commonly found in the 50s and 60s. The housing here was mostly of tiny rooms about 6 square meters lined up side by side. It looks like a scene from the popular movie Ode to My Father, and following the film's success, more people have visited the area to look around. Sitting in an old-fashioned coffee shop, you can pretend to be the DJ of the day, try on school uniforms from back in the day, and take photos. These are all elements of fun here. Now it's time for a little snack. And there's this local specialty called hanupang, which means Korean cow bread, at this place called Haul Cafe. The snack comes in a cow shape, and the dough contains powder from the beef leg bone and comes with 4 different fillings. Perfect with a cup of coffee while you take a break. Along with Majangdong's beef, what also represents the neighborhood is Wangsimni Gopchang. At this restaurant, Utong Daechang, you can try out a special kind of gopchang or beef tray. The lining for yuk gopchang is stuffed with minced beef and vegetables, so it brings out an abundance of juicy flavors. There's also gopdaechang, which packs in minced potatoes, garlic, and pepper, which will get your appetite going. Unlike regular tripe, they minimize the fat, creating a much lighter and cleaner taste. And the garlic powder that's sprinkled on while cooking kicks out any unsavory flavors that may be lingering. It's even more delicious if you wrap the gopchang in a thin slice of potato that helps enhance the taste.
Wonderful, creamy, bouncy, meaty, way fun to eat.
And of course, to wrap up the gopchang meal, you need fried rice. Here they add a generous serving of corn kernels, kimchi, seaweed powder, and cheese.
Always the best part at the end of a Korean meal. Kimchi fried rice.
If you liked what you saw today in the Seongdong-gu district, how about coming out this weekend to experience it yourself?
Oh, I love it.
The sound, the smell, the texture, everything.
It smells good right now. Yeah, we have a little bit of gopchang right here, and right over there we have some beef for you.
All right, should we go ahead and put it up there?
Yay,
yeah, we
please.
have some chuck flap, which is sachisa. We have chorobagi, which is shaved brisket, and we have anshin, which is tenderloin.
All right, let's look at the marbling here. How would you rate the marbling here, Joe?
That's high marbling.
That's chadolbagi, right?
Let's get a closer look at
which
that.
part of the body is that? Which
Chorobagi is the brisket, is the breast of the cow.
Okay, we'll just go ahead and put this on here.
Ooh, oh, the sound.
Oh, that's right. This is what Jinji wanted, right? Chadolbagi, they're in thin strips, so you can just go ahead and just put it up here.
They cook really fast.
However you want.
So supposedly the fast cooking helps retain a lot of the nutrients. And personally, I like mine very crispy.
Yeah, so they might be put together like this, but what happens is once it starts cooking, it just separates very easily, just like that. And then you just toss them there, and they're really easy to manage. They're so good. So we'll put that over here for now, and then go ahead and cook that. Wow, put that over here.
You know, sometimes, when your beef is so tender in your mouth, it melts in your mouth.
Right.
Sometimes you are unfortunately, you end up with tough meat in your mouth. And
right.
It's not a pretty feeling, having to spit that out. How do you prevent that from happening, I suppose? What do you do with the meat to make it tender and soft?
If you end up with a really tough cut, one of the trade secrets is cut against the grain. That way the fibers are shorter, so you don't have as much to chew. And you can use some tenderizers using a high acidic fruit like kiwi or pineapple works really well to do that as well. And pounding is the good old-fashioned way of tenderizing meats. That works as well.
And I think Young is cooking it the right way, because what I heard, you have to flip it just once to keep the meat juicy and tender.
There's controversy going on about that. Because I've always heard you flip it just once, but there's this big chef up in the Nordic countries. He's like this really famous chef, and he says, no, don't do that. You always flip it all the time.
Oh, really?
So everyone's going back and forth on this one. It's this big controversy right now. Me, I still just flip it once whenever I can, because I really love that sear. I love that that crispiness, what we call the Maillard reaction, the browning going on. I'm really into that. What you're doing is fine, Young. Right there.
This is one trade secret of the Korean barbecue. We actually do use the scissors. You can see. When I first came, I was like going, okay, fork and knife, right? But look how genius that is.
It is great. You can just do it
works out perfectly
over the pan.
Can we try it?
You don't have to take it out and use
you can
another
go ahead and try
surface.
some of this stuff. I think it's ready to go, right? So this is what you'll see a lot often at Korean barbecues if you ever do go. You just see, you'll see people just take that out
designate
and start
someone
cutting
you
it out.
trust to be the grill master. Preferably someone who doesn't talk a lot like me. Honestly, on my barbecue tours, the servers always yell at me because I'm talking so much. I'm letting the meat burn all the time.
Oh, well, that's half the fun too, you know. It's better if actually they like it when you burn it because then you'll just have to go ahead and buy more,
I have to buy more. I buy more, but they're always poking at me. Pay attention to what you're doing.
Well, you forgot the garlic though, Joe. I'm disappointed in you.
We have some onions over there, so that'll have to do. All right, well, thank you so much, Joe.
Thank you.
All right, see you next week.
See you.
All right, well, that's where we say goodbye on this Friday edition of Korea Today.
The sizzling Friday morning, right?
Barbecue party for Friday.
All right, so maybe enjoy that later tonight. We'll see you guys back here tomorrow on Monday morning at 7 a.m. And now we're going to enjoy this morning.
Well, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.